Did you notice that I made it through the intro and my voice didn't crack once? It's a
Yeah,
big
you
day.
did a good job today.
It's a big, big day for me.
Impressive job for you today.
No, I was thinking about it. I listened to Duncan Robinson's podcast on the Go Blue with Stu podcast feed, and he kept saying like the key to success is making sure that every day you just get incrementally better and incrementally better. So today I didn't want my voice to crack during the intro, and I did it, so I got incrementally better. And now my goal is to actually win a couple bets instead of going 3 or 4 because I was 3 or 4 yesterday on the pick.
I'm not even going to say what I was. So I'm just looking to get over 500 again after yesterday. I'm going through my first, honestly, kind of my first rough spell of the season, which is kind of miraculous. I've been hot. I'm not right now. I'm not.
Regression is a motherfucker.
And I'm not even going to tell you. Hey, I'm not even going to tell you what I did for NFL yesterday. So whoever listened to this for college hoops, add on an 0 for 3 for the NFL, and that was my record. It was ugly.
Well, I will say this: you did help me out and make sure that my day was just a little bit better because I got a text from you about I don't even know. Should I say
about no. Okay. About a game and some injuries, and yes, it helped you get a win, a much needed win for you.
It got me to positive on the day because I decided to go a little bit too heavy on Washington State and Stanford. I can't believe that game went over.
Yeah, basically follow my Twitter feed throughout the day because I usually every day I'll have at least one injury report update or something as a game gets closer. And
and not just that, make sure you follow it because there are going to be times when you say that you make a pick, right? Yeah. We have a new partner. I don't know if we can officially say things yet, but there are going to be times where you can say that you make a pick and you post this pick and you can't say why you are making that pick. But rest assured, if you're making a random pick at like 4:30 in the afternoon, it's probably because you got a little bit of info that you can't put out there publicly. So that said, let's talk a little bit about yesterday's games. We have to get into the Kentucky conversation. We have to touch on Keon Brooks. We definitely need to talk about Auburn and Alabama and Sharif Cooper and that completely drunk basketball game that we just watched. But first and foremost, man, we got to give a shout out to Andrew Jones. Yeah. I mean, he makes me
smile, man. It makes me smile. Almost 3 years to the day. You know, we talked to him, Robbie Hummel and I, earlier this week on our pod, and he said almost 3 weeks to the 3 years to the day he found out he had leukemia, and he was also, you know, there were so many interesting things. If you haven't watched it, you really need to. The Goodman and Hummel podcast, check it out. He was very introspective about everything, and. You know,
just real quick before you say that, for the people that didn't see it yesterday, Andrew hit a game-winning three with 1.1 seconds left at West Virginia to give Texas a win. They stay in first place in the Big 12 standings. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, he had hip surgery this past offseason, and it went back to when he went through the NBA Combine, and the NBA people after his freshman year, before he was diagnosed with leukemia, said, hey, you're really, really tight. At some point, you should have hip surgery. He had it this past off season and said, like, he's still getting used to his body and kind of his mechanics. And he's not shooting the ball well. And he was frustrated with that. But the thing with Andrew Jones is he's really grown up because he admitted, like, freshman year, it was all about him. He thought he was one and done. It was all about his numbers and everything that's happened with him. It's now all about team. And he said, even though he's struggling from shooting the ball, he's okay with it because he's rebounding better. He's defending better. And most importantly, they're winning. And the shots will fall eventually. Those were kind of his words the other day. And the biggest shot probably of his career fell. And you can just see it on his face, Rob. Like the emotion on his face after he hit that shot. And then the emotion with his teammates after he made that shot was the coolest thing ever.
That's what got me, is that you could just see how happy everybody in that program was for him. And so here's my thing on it, right? Like the fact that it was basically 3 years to the day, it was actually 3 years to the day that he publicly announced and publicly let people know that he had been diagnosed with leukemia. And I think the last game that they played was actually 3 years to the day of the diagnosis itself. But like either way, like that's just kind of like a clean and tidy narrative for people like us to kind of jump on. I think the real story, the thing that is so powerful and so impressive, is what happened between the day of the diagnosis and yesterday. I mean, this kid had 2 rounds of chemotherapy, right? I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of him in the hospital, like while he was going through it, when he was trying to like shoot baskets on like a little basket in the doorway. And it was just like, he was a completely different person. Like I've known people that have gone through chemotherapy. I'm sure you have. I'm sure everybody listening to this has. And what it does to a person's body, it completely ravages it. And like you have to, because that's the way that you kill cancerous cells is by like loading your body up with these like chemicals that are just not good for you. But it's the only way to battle it. And the fact that he's been able to get back to this level is just such an unbelievable feat. Like, I don't think it should ever be overlooked that, Shaka said it after the game yesterday. He was like, Andrew was always like, I'm coming back to play. I'm coming back to play. And Shaka's like, well, how about you just come back and be alive, basically, is what he was saying. And like, I'm not trying to be flippant. Like that is when you're dealing with leukemia and cancer, like that is the goal. It's to live. And not only has he done that, like he's thriving, man. And if you guys haven't heard his interview on Goodman's podcast, like you have to go back and listen to it, because like the kid's perspective on life, on improving, on bettering his community now, like the kid is so inspiring, and just I couldn't be more happy for him.
He's really grown up since the last time, I think I said in the pod, the last time I talked to him in person was at the combine. And back then, he was entitled. He was a top kid coming out of high school. He chose Texas over Arizona. Everybody wanted him, and he was kind of entitled. Like, why aren't you guys saying I'm a first-round pick? I'm thinking of leaving, and he had no right being entitled at that point. He hadn't done enough his freshman year at Texas. But man, his whole approach has changed, obviously, as it would with just about anybody who was diagnosed and had to deal with what he had to deal with.
You mentioned the shooting real quick. Yeah. Over his last 4 games, he is now averaging, let me do the math real quick. He is now averaging 18 points, and he is shooting 12 for 28 from 3, which is, I hope I get this right, 42% roughly. Yeah, 42, about there. 40. I don't know if it's right. Yeah. If it's wrong, someone's gonna let me know. But like he's figured it out, man. He's coming good.
It segues into it's why Texas right now is kind of for real, right? Like Andrew Jones is back to kind of. He might even be better than the Andrew. He is. He's better than the Andrew Jones as a freshman, because he's far more mature and he does everything. He doesn't just. It's not just about scoring. So you add him with Courtney Ramey, with Matt Coleman, a senior, with their front line, which is, man, it is their front line. I love it because they're all like a little bit different, but they're big, they're athletic. There's some skill with Kai Jones. There's some athleticism with Greg Brown. Jericho Sims is just a monster of a man and an athlete. So
he is the most powerfully athletic human being I think I've ever seen in my life. Like the way that he jumps, he is the definition of quick twitch. It's just like, how do you get that far off of the ground? Like there's no way that you're human. I refuse to believe that you're human. He's got to be like 25% frog or something.
I love. I mean, and I'm really happy for Shaka. I really am, because of everything that. Again, listen, you had expectations. You're hired at Texas. You finally, take the job from VCU. Everybody wanted you for years. You go to Texas and you underachieved. And you did. There's no other way to say it. You underachieved. And now finally it comes together with a veteran team that has gone through a lot in terms of adversity and a lot of losing.
Yeah, you mentioned that you think Andrew Jones is better than he was before. And I just wanted to touch on that real quick. I don't know that I would say that he's necessarily a better basketball player. Like I think Andrew Jones from 2017 would probably be Andrew Jones from 2021 playing one-on-one. But I think this version of Andrew Jones that has accepted who he is as a player, understands what his strength is, and is playing to that strength and just embracing the job that he has on this team, which is to be a floor spacer, to be kind of a secondary creator, and to just be that guy that forces teams to have to pay attention to him on the perimeter. And he's kind of embraced that.
Yeah.
And doing his job to the best of his ability has been something that has been really impressive. And I actually, I did just want to say one other thing, because I thought it was really powerful. He had a quote. He said something in your interview where he said, he asked for his dad for advice, and his dad was like, don't, because for people that don't know, his father they were in a car accident when Andrew was 8, and his father was paralyzed in that accident. So he's been in a wheelchair for the last 15 years of his life, and basically for all of Andrew's developmental years. And you asked him, what has seeing your father go through that been like, and how has that helped you, and how has that taught you what you need to do to be able to deal with your own struggles? And I'm bringing up the quote right here. He said the advice he got from his dad was, enjoy each day, take it as it is, don't worry about the future or the past, enjoy the moment, live in the moment. And I really hope that he was able to enjoy and live in that moment that he had yesterday, because pretty good for him, man. It just brings a smile to your face. All right, let's move on.
Who else enjoyed the moment yesterday? John Calipari.
Me, I enjoyed the moment because Andrew Joe. I had the Texas money line, so thank you.
Right, you did
from the bottom of my heart.
John Calipari enjoyed yesterday too, because Kentucky won its 3rd straight game, Robert, and the train wreck is a train wreck no more in Lexington. They are winning games, and yesterday's was the best game they played by far this season. Because listen, you can do it against Mississippi State, you can do it against Vanderbilt, but when you do it against Florida in Gainesville, I get Keontae Johnson's not in the team, but Florida still, to me, is probably an NCAA tournament team. And they've got a pro in Scotty Lewis that they completely made it ineffective throughout the game. It was just a good team win. It wasn't like anybody had an unbelievable game for Kentucky. They didn't. They took care of the ball. They moved the ball. They played like a team with some swagger, with some confidence, with some energy. They weren't putting their head down. And they're 3-0 now since Terrence Clark has not played. So I don't want to say that about Terrence Clark necessarily, but I think, again, what I do think is you've got some dudes now on the court that aren't entitled, that want to play, that are hungry. And Keon Brooks came back yesterday, and he was one of those guys.
Mm-hmm. So there are two things that I think are really important to mention from this game. The first one is the return of Keon Brooks, I think, is just so important to what Kentucky wants to do. He does all of the
pro. He's not an NBA player, but he's a great piece for the way they want to play.
Yes, he's the guy that does the little things that allow all of these other pieces to connect and to fit and to work, because he can play that 4 spot where he can guard bigs if he has to. He can switch on the smaller players if he has to. He's a really good defender. I don't think that it's a coincidence that the best defensive performance that Kentucky has had this season is when Keon Brooks was back on the floor. Offensively, he's a guy that can step out and at least be a threat to knock down a 3, right? Yeah. He's a guy that's a good pass. I think he finished with 4 assists yesterday. He's not someone that's going to break down on offense, but he's a good passer. He's a good ball mover. The offense moves better with him on the floor. He can catch a lob at the rim. He's got the skill set where if you have him on a smaller defender, he can go get an offensive rebound. Maybe he can back somebody down and score around the basket. If you have a bigger defender on him, he can step out on the perimeter and pull him away from the basket. All of those things that we were well, I don't know if it makes sense being able to play Brandon Boston at the 4. Can you guard if you have Jacob Toppin in there? Is he ready? Isaiah Jackson and Olivier Sarr don't work together in the front court. A lot of those problems are solved just by having Keon Brooks on the floor. So it makes everything work and fit together better. And the other part of it is exactly what you mentioned. Deshaun mentioned this on our podcast a couple of weeks ago. And he said it was the first time in the win, the Mississippi State win, right? He said it was the first time for him watching Kentucky where people were up on the bench cheering and yelling and celebrating and clapping. And it looked like the guys that were sitting were supporting each other. They liked each other. They were connected. And the most important thing that I noticed was that BJ Boston, top 5 recruit, potential top 5 pick, seeing his draft stock tank this year, was up cheering, going nuts for the guy that he got benched for, Dante Allen.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, that it's very obvious that this group is more connected now than they were before. And I'm not trying to say anything about Terrence Clark. I don't know enough about that specific situation to say, like, oh, he's not playing, he's better. Oh, there's no Cam Fletcher, they're better now.
Here's what I'll say about Terrence Clark. Here's what I'll say. And I want him to succeed. I like him. He needs to mature. He needs to mature. And the best thing for him to mature might be them going 3-0 without him in the lineup and saying, oh, shit, you know what? Maybe I just got to buy into the team here. Maybe they're going to be okay without me. And how does that look for my draft stock, right? Like, ultimately, come back, be a good piece of this team. You don't have to be the guy. And you could still be a first-round pick if you do that. In fact, I think more NBA guys will lock into him and appreciate what he is if he does that. How about this stat? Ready?
Look,
Kentucky yesterday, not one player on the team had more than 8 field goal attempts. The balance on this team, Mintz 13, Boston 13, Brooks 12, Sarr 10, Askew and Isaiah Jackson 9 apiece. Like, everybody had a role on this team yesterday. And think about how much harder you're going to play if you know that.
If you know what your job is and you do your job. And I just want to circle back to one thing real quick. You mentioned how guys buying into roles, right? If you look at, like, throughout John Calipari's tenure, the success that guys have had where they've kind of accepted what their job is, like, to me, that's what Cal has always done the best. Like, he got Anthony Davis to be, like, the guy that shot the 5th most shots, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist to be the guy that shot the 4th most shots on a team, as, like, the number 1 and number 2 prospects in class. They ended up being the number 1 and number 2 picks in that year's draft. Devin Booker came off the bench, and look what he's doing now, right? Karl Anthony Towns, like, played 22 minutes a game and averaged 11 points and was the number 1 pick. Tyler Hero, he accepted a role. Tyrese Maxey, he accepted a role. And look at the success those guys are having right now. I think because there are only so many players, like Bam Adebayo accepted a role, and now look at what he's doing. There's only so many players in the NBA that can be a superstar. Like, everybody in the league is going to be a role player, is going to be asked to do a job. And if you can prove that you can accept and do a job that you're asked to do, regardless of what that job is, maybe it changes depending on what team you're on, what organization, whatever. If you can show that you're willing to buy into the team concept, accept a role, and do whatever you have to do to help that team win, that is how you stick in the, not how you get to the NBA. That's how you stick in the NBA. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we've seen these Kentucky guys have success. All right, let's talk about that other game in the SEC.
Well, I was going to give a transition here.
Okay, give me. You're better at segues than I am.
Sometimes you suck at this segue thing. Kentucky's next game Tuesday at home against Alabama. Robert,
that's why you're the pro. That's why you're the pro right there.
I don't know if I'm the pro, but
that's why you're the pro.
Go ahead. I set you up.
Oh, yeah. Kentucky, Alabama. Alabama on Saturday. That was one of the dumbest games I've ever watched, just in terms of, like, it was just nonstop back and forth. Neither team really played all that much defense. Oh, it was so much fun. I was just like, the whole time, I'm like, what is going on here? And also, like, Alabama, you guys got to do better for me, man. That line was 5. I touted you. I said you guys could win. You had a wide open dunk that ended up getting blocked that would have given you the cover. 5 seconds left. You're up by 4. You need to get the ball, and you know they're going to foul, and you turn it over, and you can't even get fouled. You can't even get me those 2 points. I needed that from you, Alabama. You got to be better than that.
But I don't think Alabama cares. I think Nate Oates would probably be going like this to you right now, because you have been an Alabama Crimson Tide hater all season long. You have been doubting the Alabama Crimson Tide. I, on the other hand,
you have. It's finally paid off. 3 years of saying that they're going to be a great team.
Okay, finally, year one throw out. It was Avery Johnson. Okay, throw that year out. All right. Last year, yeah, I screwed up. This year, I think. Listen, I'm not saying Alabama is a team that you can rely on every single game because of how they play. Right. I mean, if they're missing shots defensively, they can be hard to watch at times. But Josh Primo was terrific yesterday. Petty's the key for them. I say it all the time. If John Petty's good, like if he's really good, John Petty, he looks like an NBA player, right? He's got size. He's shooting the ball. He's locked in defensively. He's really good. But the key for me yesterday was Jordan Bruner. The Yale transfer was absolutely phenomenal. And he gives them something they haven't had. Well, they didn't have last year for sure. So great win for Alabama, because it wouldn't have been such a great win, Rob, except Auburn had Sharif Cooper back. And man, talk about a kid who's fun to watch. Like, if we should do this at some point, the guys you'd pay money to see, right? We should come up with a list of top 5, top 10 guys you'd pay money to see. Sharif Cooper, hell yeah, he's on that list for me.
Yeah, number 1 on that list is Jalen Suggs. And then number 2 is, I don't know. We could talk about number 2 at some point. I just want to touch real quick on Jordan Bruner, because I think that what he can do in the role that he's being asked to play is so important to the way that Alabama can kind of get to their ceiling, right? Like, he's 6'10". He can protect the rim. He can switch if you need him to. He can make threes. He's a really good offensive rebounder, because like, he's big and he's strong and he's got these broad shoulders and he just takes up space. He's a really good passer. Like, if you watched him play for Yale last year, like, he was the guy that was they were kind of running their offense through. So it's kind of like Keon Brooks in the sense that, like, when he plays great, it brings everything else together that Alabama wants to be able to do. Now, you mentioned Sharif Cooper. It might be too late for Auburn this year. And I don't know if Sharif Cooper is ever going to be good enough defensively to kind of let them be as good as I think they can be. But what they were missing was a shot creator. That's the one thing that they were missing. They have a whole bunch of guys that are finishers, whether it's like knockdown shooters like a Justin Powell or an Allen Flanagan, or guys that can catch a lob at the rim like JT Thor or the Cardwell kid.
Isn't Thor fun?
He's going to be a good player once he kind of puts it all together. But they have a bunch of guys that can finish off plays. What they were missing was someone that could create those shots for them and create those opportunities.
Have a point guard. They've been playing all this year without a damn point guard. So to me, you add Sharif Cooper, who's wild as hell, right? I mean, he is wild right now. I mean, the 2 shots he took at the end of the game were atrocious. Mm-hmm. But the one thing he can do, he can make people better. Like, I was surprised. I thought he'd be more of a pig than he was. I mean, he's moving the ball. He's dishing it, like, and he can finish. I think, again, I haven't seen him enough, but just watching him, the biggest thing for him is obviously his perimeter shot, it would look like to you, right?
Yeah, the shooting and the defense. Like, he
right. Well, I'm not even worried about the defense yet, because
you should be worried about the defense.
Yeah, but I don't care. To me, the offense and what he does for Auburn clearly outweighs anything on the defensive end, because he gives them a guy that can make everything easier for everybody else. They can outscore dudes now.
Yeah, you're right. Let's put it like this. I think we need to auto bet Auburn overs like from now for a while, because it's going to take a while for that to.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean,
got to auto bet Auburn overs.
He changes them. Whoever's listening right now, the next game they play, which is, I will tell you right now, who they play next.
The second I see that line, I'm going to bet the over. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to bet the over.
They play.
I hope you're there with me.
They play Georgia at Georgia on the 13th. Oh,
bet the over.
I will bet the over.
Bet the over.
Georgia, they stink.
But you know what? It doesn't matter, because
they'll probably score 70.
Yeah, Auburn can't stop anyone. All right, so let's talk about today's slate. We have one game that is really, really, really good on the schedule. It is Minnesota at Iowa. For people that don't remember, the last time these two teams played, Minnesota beat the Hawkeyes in the barn in overtime after Iowa blew a 7-point lead in the final 44 seconds of regulation. Marcus Carr had 32 in that game. Brandon Johnson hit 8 for 9 from 3. I don't think we've even seen him make a shot since then. So the line, I believe, is 9.5. What do you make of this spot here?
I mean, my gut says take Iowa. They're rolling right now. Like, they look really, really good. Obviously, it's a completely different Jordan Bohannon since then. I think it's been a different Marcus Carr, to be honest. Like, when he was great, and he was great against Iowa, against St. Louis, their 2 biggest wins, right? Marcus Carr had 32 against St. Louis, 30 against Iowa. And was very efficient. Okay, very efficient. Got to the line 19 times against St. Louis. He was 6 of 13 from 3 against Iowa. The last 3 games, he's 11 of 41, 11 of 41 from the field, and 5 of 18 from 3. And against Michigan and Wisconsin, he only got to the line twice apiece. So
the teams have really focused in on slowing him down.
100%.
And I think it's important to note that in the Ohio State game, his supporting cast went off. Gabe Kalsher made a bunch of shots.
Yep.
Booth Gotch made a bunch of shots. Liam Robbins played the best game of his career against Michigan. When they lost at Michigan, Liam Robbins was nowhere to be found. Gabe Kalsher was 1 for 5 from 3. Booth Gotch played the 23 minutes, was completely ineffective.
Like my talent, when I look at it, I say like talent-wise, Minnesota should be able to stay within 9.5. But I don't think they're gonna. I don't.
Yeah. So to me, like this matchup just makes so much sense to bet on Minnesota because Marcus, like the questions that we have about Iowa, how do they guard ball screens? What do they do against teams that can shoot? What do they do against teams that have big guys that can pass the ball? But Minnesota on the road this year gave up 92 points to Illinois and lost by 27. They gave up 71 points to Wisconsin and lost by 12. They gave up 82 points to Michigan and lost by 25. And now they're playing on the road again against an Iowa team that's playing probably their best basketball of the season right now. So that line has already moved from 9.5 to 10. I just checked on my phone, so I put in the bet. You got to be on Iowa in the spot.
I'm staying away. I just
have to be on.
I just don't know. Again, I don't know which Minnesota team shows up. They can't win. I don't think they can win this game. But can they stay within 10? Maybe. If I was betting, I'd take Iowa, but I'm staying away from this.
Yeah, and for me, like I think until Minnesota can prove that they can be competitive on the road, I'm just gonna the road Minnesota's an auto fade for me. All right, second best game of the day.
Yep.
Second best game of the day is probably Maryland at Illinois. I would guess there's not a lot of great games today.
Providence Xavier. Why don't we start with Providence Xavier just because it's the 11 a.m. tip. And
23 minutes, baby.
That's in. It's 10:37 right now. How's that?
Yeah. I don't love it. I don't love either.
I like Xavier here. I think they're going to get their mojo back a little bit at home. Early tip. Providence to me. I think they're without Jared Bynum. Their point guard. I don't trust Providence. I just don't trust them. I love David Duke. I love him. I just think Xavier's got a lot more up front. And I think Fremantle to me is a tough friggin' matchup. Really tough for Nate Watson or whoever for Providence. So I'm taking Xavier laying 3.5 here.
Yeah, my only issue is that Xavier has not really played all that well recently. They struggled a little bit with St. John's at home. They got whipped by Seton Hall at home. They hung with Creighton for a while, but they blew. I think they were up it was on 2 days before Christmas. I think they were up by like 15 in the first half and ended up blowing that lead and lost at Creighton.
Yeah.
So like they kind of lost their mojo a little bit, but it's also like an 11 a.m. start at home. Weird things happen. I'm staying away. I don't have. There are teams where I feel like I have a great feel on what they are, like in Minnesota, like in Iowa. Like in Illinois, like we know when we want to bet those teams. When it comes to like Providence and Xavier, it's just I don't know. I don't have a great feel. I'm 100% staying away. If I was going to be on someone, it would be the home team playing the early tip. I don't want to bet a road team playing an early tip. But yeah, it's a stay away.
All right, now we can get to your Illinois Maryland game, which is Illinois giving 10 at home to the Terps. Illinois clearly the better team here. I like the over. That's what I like. I like the over in this one. I don't love Illinois giving. I mean, listen. If I'm going anywhere, I'm going Illinois giving the 10 in this one. I just don't trust Maryland, but I like the over here. It's 146 right now.
So take me through why you like the over.
Well, I just think Illinois is going to be able to jump out. Okay, and the way they play fast. They're going to get out and run with Io, and I think Maryland fighting from behind. They're going to have to speed it up. They're going to be fighting from behind all games, so they're not going to be able to control pace. And they're not anyway. It's not like they're a team that you can feed it to the post against Illinois. How are you going to do that? Like they're going to play into Illinois' hands. To me, ultimately.
So I think I kind of like Maryland to be able to cover here, and the reason for that is when we look for who we want to bet on against Illinois and bet against or when we want to bet against Illinois, it all comes down to the ball screens, right? Like to me, it is Illinois basically is like, is it a good matchup for Kofi Cockburn or is it a bad matchup for Kofi Cockburn? And I think that's Maryland is a bad matchup for Kofi Cockburn in the sense that they run a lot of ball screens. 22% of their offense comes out of ball screens according to Synergy, and they rank in the 94th percentile in efficiency in ball screens. So to me, I think that this is a tough matchup for Kofi. Like we saw what Maryland can do when they spaced the floor when they went into Wisconsin and they beat up on Wisconsin. I don't think that they're necessarily going to beat Illinois, but again, like I think you kind of have to bet on good matchups for Kofi Cockburn and bad matchups for Kofi Cockburn. I don't think this is a great matchup for Kofi Cockburn, so I think I'm going to be on Maryland, as uncomfortable as that is. But it just, when you can space the floor, and maybe, you know what, maybe the bet is to take Maryland in the first half and wait for Brad Underwood to make the adjustments that kind of like what he did against Northwestern. Maybe that's what the real play is here. But I think it's a good matchup for Maryland. It feels uncomfortable. I feel like that's where the value is on this line.
Another decent game, Virginia Tech against Notre Dame. I think Virginia Tech's been undervalued all year. I really do. I mean, I know they're giving 6.5 in Blacksburg. Seems like a lot of points. I don't feel like Virginia Tech's getting the respect they deserve. They've beaten Villanova, and they've beaten Clemson. Those are two of the better. Like Villanova is a top 4 team in the country, no matter how you slice it. And Clemson's been the best team in the ACC, and Virginia Tech's beaten them both. So I just feel like Mike Young has done a really good job with this group. He gets the most out of his talent. We know that from what he did at Wofford. He's got a lot of his own players now. And Notre Dame, to me, they're like fool's gold. They're if Nate Laszewski isn't making threes, I don't know how they really score the ball at a high level. So I'm going to take Virginia Tech here.
I actually love that as well. I wish I got it when it was at 6.5 this morning.
It's up to 7.
Yep, it's up to 7. I love that as well. That's all I got for today. There's really nothing else that I'm all that.
I got one more interesting one.
What's that?
One more very, very interesting one. UNC Asheville plays Hampton. Okay. I know you're smiling right now. UNC Asheville lost to Hampton yesterday, 73-71, I believe, at Hampton. They're playing again today at Hampton.
Right.
This will be Hampton's 4th game since Monday. They played Monday. They played Tuesday. They played Asheville yesterday. They're going to play again. Asheville did not play twice earlier this week. So 4 games in the span of, what does that make it, Rob? 6 days?
Mm-hmm. And they also played on December 30th and December 31st. So that's 6 games that they're going to play in 10 days.
Yeah, it's a lot of games, Rob. That's a lot of games. So, it's strictly looking at it from that perspective, honestly. And it also plays into our kind of rematch type game. They played them tough. They played Hampton tough. They lost by 2. They get another shot on them a day later. I really like Mike Morrell and UNC Asheville here.
You got to bet on the fighting Mike Morrells.
Right?
Never fade Mike Morrell. Boom.
Definitely don't fade him in Vegas.
I just locked it in. Okay. Well, okay.
Little inside joke there.
A little inside joke.
Hey, one more.
Okay.
I think Vermont's getting on track now. They were awful coming out of the gates. Everybody's like, what the hell is wrong with Vermont? They're healthy now. They beat Binghamton yesterday. What was that final?
I'm not even sure. I stopped paying attention to Vermont once Anthony Lamb left.
Yeah, they beat Binghamton by 16, and they are favored today by 12. I think Vermont's going to continue to get better and better and take out their aggression from their early season losses to UMass Lowell, NJIT, and Albany. How about that? I mean, who would have thought? So I think they're going to take – poor Tommy Dempsey. He's going to take the brunt of Vermont's frustrations today. So I'm going to take Vermont. I'm going to take the fighting Mike Morrells and UNC Asheville, I got Xavier, I got the Illinois over, and I got Virginia Tech. How's that?
I have what did I just put in? All right, so I have Iowa minus. I took 9.5. I bought the half point. I have UNC Asheville. I'm going to follow you on that one. I have Virginia Tech. I'm going to follow you on that one, and I took Maryland. See if that ends up paying off.
So say it again. Tell me what you got.
Maryland plus 9.5. I have UNC Asheville minus 3. I have Virginia Tech minus 7, and I have Iowa minus 9.5. All right.
Hope we rebound. Well, let's hope I rebound.
You rebound.
You're okay. You didn't kill people like I did.
I was profitable yesterday. All right, Jeffrey. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow morning.